So, like with Confucius, let's just hit a couple of things that are essential to understanding Lao Tzu. You can choose to use him or not. He is certainly the most poetic and in some ways the hardest to interrogate. The underlying idea of Lao Tzu is wu wei, do nothing. And that doesn't necessarily mean don't do anything at all. But as we mentioned before, it kind of means more like go with the flow. So if you dig into, it's a pretty short excerpt, so you can go through it quite quickly. If you dig into that and think about what he says about flexibility leading to success, or a lack of violence leading to success, you could certainly make very strong claims about how that might relate to government. Okay, so now let's step back and let's think about the third part of the prompt. If you were a ruler in this period, who would you choose and why? Now, to do that successfully, you've got to know, what does that mean? What is this period? So all three of these guys, if they lived, there's some evidence that they may not have, would have lived around a time called the Spring and Autumn period. This is between the Zhou dynasty and the Warring States period. What it means is that the Zhou are still in charge nominally, but they control a huge chunk of territory, and their power in the kind of fringes of their empire isn't very strong, and there's lots of other people who are becoming powerful and who are really itching to overthrow the Zhou and to themselves assume the mandate of heaven, right? Because if they overthrow the Zhou, they can then successfully say, we're here because we're supposed to be here. That's the essence of the mandate. So they're looking for how they might be able to do that. So then who are these folks? Who are Sun Tzu? Who would Confucius have been? If Lao Tzu was a person, what would he have been like? Well, we know that obviously Sun Tzu thinks a lot about military, and he's a general. So how would his background in military success encourage him to focus on using the military for government? What would he be doing? Who would his audience be? Probably somebody that he wants to become a general for. Confucius, we know, is somebody who wasn't very successful in his own lifetime, but really traveled from state to state trying to sell his ideas so that he could get employment with different emerging states. So he's looking for a job, and he's trying to give advice. He's trying to encourage people to follow his advice to assume the mandate of heaven. And the fact that for thousands of years afterwards, it's Confucius philosophy that really rings true, tells you something about how people buy in. If Lao Tzu is trying to argue for moderation, not rocking the boat, how does that relate to using a military? Or maybe some of Sun Tzu's ideas about using a military but not necessarily violent. All of those things will help you think about context, right? You've got to put yourselves in the shoes of a potential ruler. It can't just be, if I were a ruler, I'd choose this person because these ideas make sense. Instead, if you were a ruler in 500 BC China, knowing what you know about the mandate of heaven, knowing what you know about the decline of Zhou power, knowing what you know about the environment they live in, who would you choose and why? Okay, good luck with that one.